foot contusion? Is that right?
Some super light, little foot twist in practice the other day.
Nothing concerned about the opener. You'll be ready for November 3rd.
No concern, no.
Been talking to people about your rehab process. A lot of people have mentioned like seeing that video of you dunking for the first time as like a time when people really knew you were coming back. What's the story? Well, like when did that happen? Was that back home? Was it here? What's the story with that?
My first dunk period
After your injury.
Yeah, okay. So that was, I think it was in November. That's when I just started ramping up explosive workouts. I don't know how far out that was. I had surgery sometime in January, so that was whenever that was. But it was after a few explosive workouts in November, a few planting workouts and 2-foot jumping. So I decided to, just see where my body was, just to, get a feel for who I would be as I got closer and closer to being more and more athletic again. So I just went in the gym. A few guys was in there, a few walk-ons. I just finished the workout, and I just went and dunked. And then I was like, wow, that was something I wanted on video. So when did it again on video, and that was the start of, me feeling a little bit better about myself.
You've talked about like wanting to make sure mentally you were ready to come back and play.
Mm-hmm.
When did you know? How did you know when you were going to be ready mentally?
Throughout the process, you don't, I don't want to say it's a leap of faith type of process, but, it's tough early on, going through the day-to-day of learning to walk, forcefully having your leg bent, stuff like that. Everybody who's been through that type of injury knows how that gets, so, that's very discouraging. But once I started doing athletic movements again, that's when I knew physically I was going to be getting there. I started getting physically there as the months progressed. After that dunk, that's when I started getting there physically. Started getting back into practice. About mentally, it took me some time just because of how I play. I'm very athletic, very explosive, very sudden. My movements are very explosive and they come randomly. I go from 0 to 60, 0 to 100, 0 to 80 at way different paces than most even elite athletes do. So that took some time, and through my first few months in practice, I wasn't really moving that way. Everything was very controlled. But when we started getting closer to around in the conference play, going into the March period, I started feeling pretty athletic again. Started feeling a little bit sure of my movements, but when I felt fully 100, fully super back athletic was when we first went home for our break in May. That's when I felt about 100 mentally.
How did like sitting out, studying film, getting those mental reps, like how did that help you process the game better?
It just let me sit back and watch, in a way of watch thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of basketball. I was able to see game flows, things that reoccur in the game, able to take things from different players. I was just able to sit back and really focus in on what it takes to be a good player mentally, not knowing how my physical would come back early on. So when I was watching, I was just seeing players think the game, seeing how they thought the game, seeing, like I just said, reoccurrences, things that reoccurred in the game. So I was really taking to account how people were getting mental advantages in the game because I didn't know how things would be for me physically.
Can you give the fans a quick scouting report or preview of the freshmen? Just what you've seen about them so far in the last couple months that you've practiced?
Yeah, to start it off, they're competitors. They're Marquette guys, We do a very good job of recruiting guys who we know are going to be able to, we do things a little bit differently here. So we do a good job of making sure we got guys who are able to compete physically, mentally, and emotionally with all things we take great pride in. Individually, Nigel James is a strong point guard downhill, very elite passer, very confident, New York-style guard. You can expect a lot of scrappiness from him, a lot of saving plays, a lot of making plays from him. Adrian Stevens, real aggressive defender. We try and practice, early on, how the refs will be early on. So he may get a few little hand check fouls, this and that, aggression fouls. But he's a real pesky defender, really reminds Coach of Stevie Mitchell. I see things of that nature as well. Offensively, he's an elite shooter. He's always ready to shoot that basketball. Downhill strong, big, broad shoulders. So he's an elite shooter, a great defender. You're just gonna see he's gonna have his ups and downs in terms of fouls and stuff like that early on. You're gonna be able to see it in his aggression. But they're both dogs. Their hearts are in the right spot. Our two young wings, Michael and Ian, elite shooters as well. They're really doing their what they need to do to come into their own and the things that they need to work on, which is like defensive rotations. Most things that younger players struggle with. So defensive rotations, things we preach in our program like readiness, awareness, stuff that's going to help them get that mental advantage and that's more controllable than when they're out there as young players and they're, I won't want to say physically lacking, but guys are stronger, been in college longer. So just helping them get the mental reps and get their mental aspect of the game down when it comes to getting out there against stronger and faster guys, so they can let their offensive and defensive advantages show. Sheik Pearson, he got here not too long ago, but he's a freak athlete, really good head for the game, and he's a winner. He hasn't gotten too many reps yet since he's redshirting, but it's going to be, like Coach says, it's got a good chance to be one of the best classes since we got here, freshman classes.
Sean, how much time have you actually spent thinking about your first time on the floor in an actual game again? And then just kind of what do you think that moment's going to be like for you?
In terms of how much time, I can't even tell you. I've had a lot of time to, have thoughts like that. I can't even tell you how many days I've had to just sit and think about, what's my first time going to be like out there? But honestly, when it comes to feelings like that, Coach has done a lot of work with me and all the guys on being in the present moment. So, I try to take it day by day, hour by hour, do the things I have to do that day, prepare my mind, prepare my body, prepare my emotions, prepare my spiritual aspect of my body and my being to be ready for that. So when November 3rd, you're going to see me super ready, super serious, super ready to go. That's what you're going to see from me. It's not going to be, hesitation. There's not going to be any hesitation for me.